Bonsoir, dear friends. Comment allez-vous? It is so exciting to be together again tonight. This is June 15, 2020. We are tonight celebrating a post-day of Flags Day, and I'm thrilled that we all were honoring our flags. There's a lady I've always adored. Her name is Betsy Ross. When Hastings in 1776, she saw the various stars and the beautiful American flag. And this is a very exciting time for all of us in the world as we recognize our flag and where we belong. And it's an exciting time as well to recognize how important it is to unite ourselves, to accept diversity. This is, the month of all of us celebrating and welcoming equality, diversity, choice, hope, and all love and peace. And I'm delighted to be alive in this phenomenal time so we can all make a difference together. Symbolically, like the butterfly that we're going to speak about tonight. We've talked about the butterfly before, but we will tonight with a very special guest named Katie Carter. And thank you all for coming. I could see Bridget, Jim, Natalie, Dr. Sanders again, Ken Hornline, Catherine Scott. Thank you. It has been a long time. Ilona, of course, Donna, Cecile. We have Melissa Lynch, who is with us tonight, and Patrick Egan at the music, and Dylan, the faithful Dylan, on the digital media. So we're going to have a great time. We're going to bring a very special lady to talk more tonight technically about wine. As you know, Monday is our reserve day for wine and wine regions, and the AVA we love so much tonight will be Sonoma. But without any further ado, we got to start any JCB Live the right way, because JCB 21 should always be floating any day of the week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'm delighted. I just offered a bottle of 69 to great people here at the winery, and they were celebrating 35 years of being together. So even after confinement, this is something very commending, 35 years together, specifically maybe after confinement. So dear friend, cheers. And to finesse, to excellent, and to history. And I'm going to tell you more why we call this session Alexander the Great. But first and foremost, I want to bring our fabulous guest, Katie, who has been our phenomenal, charismatic, talented, and beautiful winemaker. Dear friends, at the Lodge Vineyards, and of course, Wattle Creek, and naturally Leith Estate. So everything geared into the fabulous Sonoma. Good evening, Katie.
Good evening, Jean-Charles. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're delighted. So where are you tonight?
Well, currently I'm in the Sonoma Coast AVA. You can see out in the redwoods here, a nice cool region closer to the coast. But Sonoma County is so diverse in the different wine growing regions. So tonight I'm super excited to talk about Alexander Valley and the home of Wattle Creek. So,
well, you have your beautiful hair floating in the redwood. This is your balcony at your house?
Yes, it is actually. So I live out here in the Sonoma Coast, again, close to the ocean. And this time of day in the summertime, the fog pulls in and it starts to cool off and it gets really windy. I think we're going to go kiteboarding after this. So, it's certainly a different climate compared to further inland in Sonoma County, and really gives me a lot of breadth for growing a variety of wines. So Alexander Valley being warmer and cooler out here. So Sonoma County is so diverse.
This is a magnificent setting that reminds me the long, beautiful hair of Alexander the Great. And why do I say this, Katie? We've named tonight, Alexander the Great for one of the wines, because obviously we'll talk about Alexander Valley. But Alexander the Great, to give you a sense of timeline, 300 BC was one of the most amazing leader of all time. I won't talk about his conquest. I won't talk about all the cities he named after him. It's around 25 cities. But I will talk about the beautiful city of Alexandria, which is in Egypt, that I had the pleasure to visit one day, and brings us to wine, because there is a 1,000 hectare vineyards that was planted under his era. Obviously, then the Egyptian continued and made a great wine. And he was the man who, which I love, created a lot of things dealing with the arts. And as you know, he was very close with the Greeks to invade them and to take their arts. And he went all the way to Asia. So the symbol of picking him today, besides wars and taking over new territories, he took over the local culture that he liked the most and applied it. So, he became very, very well known for the famous Greco-Buddhist art and religion that followed, and a lot of other great things. So we need to have a little toast to Alexander Valley and Alexander the Great.
Cheers.
So when we think about Sonoma, Katie, and I want to, before you tell us more specifically about Alexander Valley, I want to give all our friends with us tonight a little sense of the size. We talk a lot about Napa Valley, 47,000 planted acres. Think Sonoma County at large, 62,000 acres.
Yep.
So this is not twice larger, but what is so exciting, 60 different grape varieties, over 18 different AVA. So diversity, diversity, and diversity. And I cannot stop repeating it. I was born, as you know, in the heart of Burgundy, which is really Chardonnay for white wine and Pinot for red. I'm a fanatic observer and passionate learner at all time of Sonoma because of how diverse it is, from the south to the Russian River to obviously the Dry Creek and where you are in Alexander Valley. So tell us, first of all, Katie, why don't you say how many years we've been together and what was the most memorable moment together?
Oh my goodness. Well, Jean-Charles, I joined you in 2006. I was fresh off of vintage in South Africa, and I came back to Sonoma County. I grew up out here in the Russian River Valley, and we met, and I started at Deloach Vineyards in 2006. And that was one of my first crazy memories of you. We had a tasting with one of our growers to taste through some different samples, and we started tasting, after the workday, maybe 6 p.m. And the discussion just evolved and grew and blossomed, and we opened more bottles, and all of a sudden it was 2 a.m.
That's right. I remember that was memorable.
I even took a picture. I took a picture because you and I and Brian Maloney was there, and
Greg LaFollette, I remember.
And Greg LaFollette was there, and there were so many glasses on the table, and it was just one of the most awesome early memories of you, about how engaged you were to, taste with us and really dive into what, the relationship between us, the growers, and what we were looking for in our wines at Deloach. So
well, you made me think. Thank you for reminding me, because I thought it was even more recent, because those moments are so magic and so fabulous that you think it just happened. One of the things I want to recommend to everybody is to do what we did that night. We kept talking about a new region. We kept talking about style. And every one of us said, well, wait a minute, let me get a bottle.
Yes.
And it was the catalyst of the discussion. It was really the envy for us to communicate what was coming next, the different style, what we should do, how we should be inspired by it. And how many bottles of wine did we open that night, even from Burgundy?
Oh my goodness, Jean-Charles, I don't know. You ran into the cellar and opened one, maybe one every hour, half an hour. We had so many bottles open.
So that was pretty mild. And if it's only one an hour, We spent 8 hours. That's only a case of wine. That's not too bad. I think it was a little more than that. But
Well,
luckily we drove you home that evening, didn't we?
probably.
Or you slept at the winery, who knows?
I have
But it
slept at the
was a
wine
great memory. I remember. So that has been, so you started 16 years ago now. Wow.
in 2006. Yes. So many years at Deloach, working really closely with Brian Maloney, and so fortunate to be able to transition into Leith Estate and now Wattle Creek Winery. That was 3 years ago now. So
Well, tell us, you obviously live on the coast. You're surrounded with those magnificent, powerful redwood.
mhm.
Tell us a little bit about Alexander Valley, because I feel a lot of the people get to know Wells, Sonoma Coast, Petaluma Gap, Green Valley, Russian River. They venture into the Dry Creek Valley, but the Alexander Valley, not as much. So it's 25% of the total plantings of Sonoma. So tell us more about what makes it so unique.
That's true, Jean-Charles. So fully a quarter of planted wine producing grapes vines in Sonoma County are up in Alexander Valley. And Alexander Valley does have a depth of wine growing history. Back in the mid 1800s, before California was even a state,
Yes.
Cyrus Alexander came in, got a land grant from the Mexican government to plant a diversity of things and ranch, but he also planted the first vines back in the mid 1800s. Wine growing was not a really robust enterprise for a while up in Alexander Valley. Prunes and ranching and apples. But after World War II and into the 60s, 1960s, it was recognized that it could be a really premier location, especially for Cabernet Sauvignon. Zinfandel, Chardonnay, absolutely. Merlot, a lot of different varieties are grown up in Alexander Valley, but Cabernet Sauvignon is king up there. And it's going to be.
Is it because of the climate? Is it because of the soil? What do you attribute it for? Because you managed the first Bordeaux styled, winery, Leith Estate, which did that in 1979. So the history. How do you attribute it to?
So Alexander Valley is in the northeastern corner of Sonoma County. The Russian River flows through Alexander Valley. That's a fun fact. But the Russian River AVA is further south and further west, closer to the ocean.
Yeah.
And in Sonoma County, everything is governed by the fog and the ocean, the maritime influence and how the fog rushes in. I'm wearing a sweater because it's getting chilly, makes it cooler closer to the coast. So up in Alexander Valley, further upstream in the Russian River, it's warmer. We have a longer, warmer days, and that allows those tannins to ripen in Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet would be very, very green, and it would not ripen enough where I live. So Alexander Valley is prime for that. Also, the geology and the soils contribute to that as well. Alexander Valley is a valley, and there's certain very rich alluvial soils due to the Russian River flowing through, but really prime growing for Cabernet Sauvignon is going to be on that benchland, kind of leading up into the foothills of the Mayacamas Mountains.
You're making a dream.
Those soft rolling hills, and that's where you get that really diverse mix of soils, the soils that have crumbled off of the mountains mixed with alluvial deposits. So it's a nice diversity of soil types that can't really be pinpointed to one style, but well drained and excellent growing for Cabernet Sauvignon and other varieties.
Not that I want to digress from Cabernet, but we have from Wattle Creek a magnificent, gorgeous Viognier. And we will go back to the king, to Alexander the Great, and of course to Cabernet Sauvignon. But I feel there's a variety which I'm in love with, of course. As a Frenchman, you cannot not love Viognier because it's so small and unique. Besides the south of France, it's the Northern Rhone.
Right.
And it really embodies some of the most amazing Northern Rhone wines, from Hermitage to others. And it really blossoms very well as well in California. So tell us what attracts you to Viognier, and why Viognier within Wattle Creek makes sense, and how you made this wine.
Viognier, I would say, is the first white wine that really captured my attention years ago because it's so aromatic. And what I learned later on in winemaking, that it is quite difficult to capture those aromatics. And when I say aromatic, I mean floral perfume, a little bit of stone
Yes.
fruit, a bit of minerality. It has a mixture of slight tropical, floral, peaches, and it can just blossom from the glass. And it can suggest being a sweet wine, but a very, very well-made Viognier is going to be dry. And that's what I strive for. So it really captures me stylistically to be able to achieve those aromatics in the glass, because if you let it ripen too much, you'll lose the aromatics. If you pick it too early, it'll be flat. And same thing with winemaking techniques. So it's delicate, but it's exciting.
It's exciting. And when I taste Viognier, I want to have cantaloupe. I want to have watermelon. I want to have San Daniele ham. I want to have goat cheese. I want to have those non-herb olives, which are, a little on the dry side.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, this is kind of the dream aperitif wine. People come over to see you before a barbecue, or even you're just having flatbreads and just herb on it. This is kind of that dream wine,
Exactly.
which, so how do you make Viognier?
So Viognier, it's a white grape. And as I mentioned, it's nuanced to be able to pick it at the right time. You don't want to let it age too long on the vine or too short. So I'll pick the fruit, whole cluster, press it. Viognier can tend to have somewhat bitter skins. So like all white fruit, you don't really, in general, I don't want any skin contact. So press the juice. I'll ferment it in stainless steel tanks. Again, barrel fermentation of Viognier is a unique style. It's not something that I'm interested in. I want to preserve nice freshness.
Well, I
and
agree
again,
with
those
you.
aromatics.
Too rich, too evolve, too so tarnish sometimes.
Yes.
And I love the fact that we really do stainless steel, so it remains very crisp, very aromatic.
And it preserves that freshness that really suggests that juiciness you were talking about, that melon, that mouth watering, that fresh fruitness. So ferment in stainless steel. I do not let it go through that secondary malolactic that can make Chardonnay buttery. And again, if I let too much oxygen come in, if I used barrels, if I let it age too long on the vines, Viognier can become kind of oily and strange flavor. So it doesn't really see much aging. I will bottle it in early spring. So just finish the fermentation, chill it down to stabilize, and bottle it up. So, but I would say, it sounds simple, but again, the pick call and the fermentation technique is very precise. I need to ensure that I'm preserving those aromatics. So.
And what is unique here, as we're going to go back to Alexander Valley, we are in the Russian River.
Yes.
Well, where are we with this Viognier, in fact?
So this Viognier is going to be, the upper part of the Russian River Valley,
Right.
which is up in Alexander Valley. And it is a warmer growing region, but it does get cooler nights. So it has that nice balance of having enough heat to ripen the fruit. You won't achieve those floral, those perfumey aromatics in Viognier without enough heat. You can grow it in cooler climates, but it tends to be a bit more austere and kind of more mineral citrus driven. So those nice warmer, more inland days are going to achieve that in terms of flavor development. And so, yes, so this is going to be, this vineyard is actually one of the original Wattle Creek vineyards up there. And it is, again, it's a bit inland, it's a bit warmer, and that northern reach of Russian River in Alexander Valley. So,
which is fascinating for all of us to take into account, is Viognier is not grown in so many countries around the world. So we're lucky to have it. Here in California, you found obviously a lot of it in France, and naturally in Australia, which has been a great variety that blossomed there and does very well. But it's very unique, and I recommend to everyone to try Viognier. It provides diversity, uniqueness, and a different flavor profile, because I often think people just want to go one white and be wild, be experimental, be like the butterfly. And I know you love my shoes, my butterfly shoes.
Ooh la la.
I don't know if Dylan is zooming enough to see them, but I
I can
think it's
see.
the time, to go. I know you love them. So those were made by our good friend Louboutin, and I'm a big fan of them because every time I wear them, I fly. I have the feeling that I have wings, and you can see I'm wearing my butterfly shirt for you too.
So
And
appropriate.
well, many people may wonder why a butterfly. It's a symbol of evolution.
Right.
It's born one way and evolves into another. It doesn't have any wing, and suddenly it does. And I think it's what I love about the butterfly. We transform, we evolve, we become something else.
Hmm.
And I think this is, so appropriate always during this period of not only confinement, but life. We always reevaluate what we do. We always rethink our priorities. We always want to maybe reassign where we're going. So I always love the butterfly to draw, to present. And, I've done this amazing, fun experiment when you start with the actual, obviously warm with my daughters, and you over 15 days, see him breaking his cocoon, eating it, and then ending it, with the wings, and 2 or 3 hours later become, as he moves his wing, grows his wing, and then fly out.
It's
So
amazing to witness.
it's amazing, right? To look at nature and Mother Nature.
Hmm.
So Katie, now Viognier, why don't we go to Alexander Valley and talk Cabernet,
Yeah.
and maybe for everyone, the differences in style between Napa Valley, Alexander Valley, and maybe some of the Cabernet we do even in Sonoma County at large.
Hmm.
Because Cabernet is this great variety that is really known as the king, the queen, even though, it could be disputed that Cabernet Franc, who is the father of Cabernet Sauvignon, could be as great. Hence, we'd say Alexander the Great. And tell us about the style that you were looking for in the wine and what makes, again, Alexander Valley so special.
So I produce Cabernet Sauvignon out of Alexander Valley. It's a vineyard that is very close to the Viognier vineyard, so that warmer reach of Sonoma County up in Alexander Valley. And I spoke a little bit to the soils already, pretty well drained, so it can really be great for wine growing and for Cabernet Sauvignon. The region that I pick Cabernet Sauvignon, I'm able to allow the fruit to hang long enough. It's critical for Cabernet Sauvignon because if you pick fruit too early, you'll end up with those green bell pepper flavors, things that taste unripe. Cabernet Sauvignon
I really
definitely
feel
needs.
the green bell pepper flavors in some very positive way here.
Mm-hmm. So
Forgive me to interrupt.
that's okay. It's a delicate balance, to again make a pick call that is at the right time for that. So for my Cabernet Sauvignon, I will ferment it a little bit warmer than other Cabernet Sauvignons that I've made in the past. And this is to really encourage a lot of extraction. I can tell that my skins are not very bitter. They have a lot of really nice fine tannins, and I want those to develop and want them
No
to
whole cluster
express.
here.
I don't use
Destem.
destem. So you destem, crush the fruit just a little, just to get that initial maceration and the juice release, and I'll allow the fermentation not to get super hot, but a little bit warmer than most
I
Cabernet.
say that because I know how much you're very athletic. I know you fly, you swim, you go underwater. And one of the activity we all love to do the most when we meet all of us at Harvest at Deloach Vineyards and Wattle Creek or Leith is to do punch down, physical punch down. And we do a lot of them with whole cluster. But Cabernet doesn't like too much whole cluster. Huh?
No, it would. I think it would. The stem contact would just exacerbate too much green character in Cabernet.
Yes.
Perhaps people do it. I probably would not, but we do certainly do it at Deloach, and I have definitely completed my fair share of foot treading, the Pigeage à Pied, and makes wonderful Pinot.
I'm a big fan of this Cabernet. Very refined, very elegant, not too ripe at all. you know, it's
And
an amazing food wine.
yes, and that is my goal with the entire Wattle Creek portfolio, but especially the Cab, is to make one that stands out for being approachable. I've had Cabernet Sauvignon that is wonderful, but it's so chunky. It is so big in my mouth that especially as someone, if someone is approaching Cabernet with maybe not a lot of experience, you need to be able to grasp it, to be able to enjoy it on its own too. I don't need a big steak to eat it up with. And I'm looking to enhance fruit in my Cabernet Sauvignon, but have very balanced, smooth tannins as well.
Well,
So
you've been very successful. I'm getting a lot of great comments from Lisa, from Donna, from Deanna, from, you know, Woody. A lot
I
of
would eat.
us love, and Jim, a lot of us are loving this style of Cabernet, which is very interesting for us to go from Napa Valley to Alexander Valley to each of the areas. And again, you know, even though Northern California is not the largest wine region in the world, it's a big one. It shows you the diversity of even being a few miles away from one another.
Right.
So, Katie, I just want to touch on a topic that I've always admired in you. Young lady, you graduated from a biology degree,
Yep.
not winemaking per se. We met each other when you started. How was it 14 years ago as a lady, young lady? You know, you were really coming out of UC Davis or college you were at to start. How was it at first, and how did you make such a success?
Uh, I attribute most of my success from working with the right people. And I know you can say that about any career path or what you do in life. It's all about the people that you are with. But I have been so fortunate to work with Brian these many years, Brian Maloney, and of course with you as the guiding light for us all these
Thank you.
years. Prior to that, I worked with Greg LaFollette, who, of course,
For
was
sure.
influential in
We're all big fans of course, and great friends.
exactly at Deloach. And I worked at a few wineries before Deloach and before joining you. And I worked in South Africa as well. But I returned to Sonoma County from South Africa because I grew up in the Russian River Valley. My parents still live there in Forestville, and it's my home, and I feel very connected to this land. So when I joined Deloach, it was an opportunity to have really hands-on winemaking experience and to work very, very closely with Brian and the team there. And so it's been a wonderful evolution. I've felt really supported, but I also feel a lot of autonomy too, you know, from the time when I took over for winemaking Leith Estate and now Wattle Creek, and even just small winemaking decisions along the way. Brian and I talk a lot about the barrels that we're going to use, which is so influential for the ultimate wine.
Exactly. And Katie, thank you for saying that. Male, female team, very important, right? In
I think
winemaking.
so. Yes. I would definitely agree with that. Brian and I would say in some ways have aligned our palettes a little bit to have, you know, similar goals, but we offer, you know, different perspectives on the way that we can see these wines evolving, on flavors that we are experiencing, senses. I tend to taste wine and feel like I'm in a scene, I'm in a meadow, and what are all those flavors that are contributing to those sensations that create a whole experience for me, and put that into words, and then envision how that wine is going to evolve in barrel, in a glass.
So you create yourself a theater. You create yourself.
I create the theater in my mind.
I'm like you. That's the way I make it.
Yeah.
So, Katie, unfortunately, we never have enough time to go through too many topics, and we've been fortunate to know each other for so many years. I want people to really hear, as you know, I'm an enormous believer in women and wine, and I was very fortunate. You know, my grandmother's school teachers, however, great wine tasters. My mother is insanely great, probably the best in the family. My sister is extremely talented. We have many fantastic women winemakers in our team.
Yeah.
I would like you to touch on the very important topic. One, give confidence to women in wine. And two, tell us what women are adding to winemaking and the wine world.
I feel that, like I said, women are adding a perspective that is a natural balance to a male perspective. And I also feel that
Yes.
winemaking is so closely tied with wine growing. We cannot speak about winemaking without talking about viticulture. And agriculture and viticulture has historically been dominated by men. And even to this day, many growers are men. There's some wonderful women growers, but it is an arena where you enter that arena, you need to have authority to be able to make decisions, to ask questions, and it can be a little intimidating. I think that I have benefited from being in the early days. I was one of the only women in my team. Working with Brian has been a nice balance, but most of our cellar has been men, and it has given me confidence to be able to learn from them, but also speak what I know and what I know we need to do to achieve delicious wine, and be open to change.
Well, and you've done it in a very subtle, elegant, refined way that has helped us to really evolve. Now, technically, we know women have more senses sometimes than men, and I'm not trying to build the difference between both.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many great ladies in our team. We have so many great sommelier, great chef, great ladies in the wine world.
Mm-hmm.
So many fabulous ambassadors. As you know, over 80% of all our ambassadors are incredible, passionate ladies from all walks of life. And I want you to tell them now how important a woman's voice is in the wine world and how much you add to the wine world, and why.
Your voice is important. And a long time ago, I heard from a female mentor that, even don't doubt yourself. Don't
Right.
apologize for saying things. I think
Thank you.
women tend to begin speaking by saying, like, I'm sorry, but maybe this. Just say what you need to say, and the way that you speak, even if you feel shaky inside, or even if you doubt that you belong there because it's agriculture, because it's winemaking, and there's not a lot of women. If it's what you want to do, just keep speaking, and don't apologize for it out loud or in your head. Just
I love it.
Keep on it.
Well, Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've
Jean.
had a little 21. Forgive me.
I'll need to go get my own bottle.
But the Wattle Creek are fabulous. The Viognier, obviously the Cabernet Sauvignon. We could have tasted, of course, the Syrah and all this amazing range of great wine. I want to congratulate you on the behalf of all of us, of course. You've had a lovely little baby.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We haven't seen
behind
you as much as we would have liked, but we know harvest is going to come and we'll see you again.
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank you very much as well as a young lady. You still are, but obviously 14 years ago when you started, and to have done all the things you've done for the wine world at large. And I want to say as a conclusion to everyone listening and with us, it's so important, as you said so well, to voice your opinion, to assert your ideas, to present them, to feel confident, and to let yourself, be at the center stage and have everybody around you be part of your thinking process. So thank you so much, Katie. Cannot wait to taste again in person. We don't have to do till 2 a.m., but
at least
we have a
5
rendezvous
hours.
till midnight.
Thank you, Jean-Charles.
Cheers, and the best in the redwoods of Alexander Valley.
See you soon.
No, no, no.